Welcome back into the Dedicated Podcast. I'm Ben Spicer, joined by Jonathan Mumphrey. We've been having the chance to spotlight coaches, former athletes, and athletes all around the country from a variety of sports and different backgrounds and all walks of life. And we're excited to welcome in another very special guest, former TCU quarterback, former Stephen F. Austin quarterback, and a two-time state champion quarterback at All Saints Episcopal in Fort Worth. That's Foster Sawyer. You see him there on your screen, and we appreciate you for joining us, Foster. How are things going this summer? I know you're working out with some kids right now, so how are things going in your life?
Oh, it's going, man. It's awesome. Kind of on the back end of training for our kids in the summer. They all report here probably a little over two weeks, 3 weeks. But our middle school kids and elementary kids, we'll still continue training with them, getting ready for Pee Wee and all that. But it has been a grind since January, since being off-season coaches. But I absolutely love it. I mean, if you don't have passion and joy being a coach or a mentor, whatever you want to call it, you're in the wrong business. But man, it's an honor to work with these kids, and my favorite part is watching them ball out in the fall. That's the whole point of all of this. So we're pumped and ready to go over here to get these boys going.
That's awesome. Definitely in the fall. Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I know we got the chance to get to know Foster through AP Ranch, 14-year runner-up at the Crown, DR7 the Crown. And, of course, the Dedicated Podcast is brought to you by DR Sports. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 7-on-7 world and that. But I'll kind of give you the floor, Mumphrey. I mean, this was your idea. So kind of tell us why we're here today and, you know, what the mindset of the Dedicated Podcast is.
Well, Ben, when we start to think about this and really put things down, we wanted to dig a little deeper into our coaches' mindset and where they come from, and learn a lot more about who they are as men and women if they're running an organization. So that's the whole point of Dedicated came from our company, Dedication and Respect Sports. And so, Foster, I'm a guy that like to dive right in. And so I was going to give a little joke about being a TCU Horn Frog, but and I'm an SMU Mustang, but we'll say that for later when we get ready to talk about that topic. But everything happens in life, man, that kind of triggers us to find our own dedication and become dedicated to some. I know for me, just go dig real deep and just jump in here. For me, it was when I was about 15, 16 and living in a nice community, very nice home, and it's around the crack epidemic in my neighborhood, and when I got hit, and my dad, who's one of the greatest men I know, got impacted by it, and got a chance to see him go through that change, and some things happened personally that he was abusive, and I had to find myself to go and like the typical young man, go and get stronger. So that's when I became dedicated to protect my mom and to get stronger. And what I found that helped me transition that anger, any of the things that, those things that really had me upset at home, transferred to the football field and being successful in the classroom and wanted to do everything opposite of what I saw around my community. And remind you, I mean, I have no complaints in life, only those moments. So it was some great times, but I think it was that moment where I looked in the mirror and said, I got to become dedicated to something because what I'm saying is not what I want to be. I never knew what I want to be, but I knew what I didn't want to be. Hey, you might not have the same moment that I have or same similar story, but hopefully there's a moment in your life that triggers you to say, I'm different and I got to do something different. I got to be dedicated. You mind sharing it with us?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, so for me, as far as like the coaching or mentorship, whatever led me to this, I would even take it back to when I was a kid, to be honest with you. I had lost a family member, my older sister, when I was just about to turn 7. So she played baseball, she played sports, she was competitive as hell, and she was a believer and glorified God in every way at a young age. And I just always, that has stuck with me, that passion. And all I've ever wanted to do is to continue that legacy, to make her proud, and to love people and communities. And I think that's kind of where God has put me in this situation to help others and be steadfast in who I am and to be a helping hand. And AP Ranch has provided that for me. I'm so thankful for this family over here and the community that we built. And I love Fort Worth, so we love to help out the Fort Worth community. But I have been blessed to have so many good mentors and coaches of every stage of life. And the least I could do is to be there for these kids, man. So, but I tell my kids and parents that we're in this game of life, and that's what we're all here for each other. So.
Foster, for you, I mean, that's crazy to have to go through that at such a young age. Kind of to talk about Mumphrey's experience. My experience, I came a little later in life. I was 25 and I lost my mom. She was kind of a mentor to me, obviously, but not only personally but professionally as well. She worked in media like I did. Worked at a radio station for about 40 years, and she passed away unexpectedly. So she was always kind of there for me and led me along the way. And it was hard for me at 25, to go through that. So I can't imagine being a 7-year-old and going through that. I read several articles and watched some videos about your story and just your journey as well. I know you had 2 other siblings also. So just kind of what emotions were you going through, and how did you kind of cope with that? Was it your family that helped you to get through that? Was it sports? Was it a combination maybe of both? Just what kind of did you do to be able to get through something like that at such a young age, man? That's crazy.
Man, I mean, whenever something like that, I mean, like you said, we all been through things. It's the hardest. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is get up and get out of bed. And luckily enough, I have my family. My parents are who I look up to the most, and my brothers. I got 2 older brothers, 1 little brother now. He wasn't alive at the time, but and our close friends. And in those situations, in that time, like you talked about anger, Murph. I mean, like that kind of stuff. As a kid, I just had so much passion, and football and baseball and basketball were my way to express that in a healthy way. And I just think without sports, I don't know where I'd be. I really don't. And that's when it shows it doesn't matter about how much money you have or don't have or whatever. Like if you're going through pain or suffer, like it's tough. And that's why we tell our kids here how important it is to be very selective with your circle. You can't choose your family sometimes, but you can choose your friends. And I have been very blessed with great mentors, like I said, to see it through. And and to be honest with you, the Lord, man, He got us through it. I mean, He literally got us out of bed, and it's not always pretty. It's not always like it just went away. I'm sure y'all get that. Like it's not like something that's just disappears. It's always sticking with you, but He provides you with the strength that you need, and He will not provide you. He won't give you something you can't handle. And sometimes you gotta go through that storm, man. But I promise you, that storm it comes and goes, as y'all know, man. But so I got friends and family. Long story short.
No, absolutely. You got to have faith. I tell people all the time, life is set up to make you quit, but you got to keep pushing, and it'll give at every level. And so we get challenged at those levels. So, I definitely know you guys have honored her. I mean, with the baseball program, the baseball tournament is grown, man. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. In respect to that, I mean, I was excited when I got a chance to learn a little bit about the fire she had in her as an athlete, but also love the lake as well. So I'd
Yeah.
love to hear a little bit more about that baseball.
So baseball is kind of what the select 7-on-7 is now to me. I mean, that's all we did growing up was select baseball. So that was our community, that was our team, and so that's my family and our friends decided to start a tournament of just close friends over there in Mansfield. And I think it might have been 15, 20 teams max. Coach pitch all the way up to 13U, and it ended up surpassing over 500, maybe more.
Wow.
I think more than that, to be honest with you, towards the end of it. And it just grew. And how did it grow? It grew by just sowing seeds with family, friends, and relationships. And it ended up being like the #1 tournament, I believe, in the fall in the U.S., or definitely top 5. similar to what y'all are doing with DR7. I mean, it just happens, and it's actually a very similar community with the select baseball world. But we started it and to honor my sister and to fundraise. So my family, they have a foundation called Sawyer Foundation. So that's how they fundraise it for kids that can't afford books, can't afford food sometimes, or just, and then also like they can't afford like transportation for teams or sign up fees or whatever it is. Similar to what we do at AP, very similar to what we do at APR at the ranch, is just to help kids that maybe can't afford that. So yeah, we have all types of scholarships and just want to be a helping hand in this crazy world. And if that means picking up a baseball on a weekend, then by golly, that's what we did. So ended up being pretty dang special.
Yeah. Well, y'all continue. Is there y'all events continue to go, or have you guys kind of transferred?
So what we've we all gotten older. I know we all joked around earlier, but yeah, we're slowly getting older. And now everyone golfs. So what we did is we continued to kind of move over into other areas to fundraise for kids, and that's where we started with this idea of a golf tournament.
Yeah.
So that's what we do now, is kind of a golf tournament. My mom oversees all of it. I believe the tournament's still going on, but my parents have kind of removed themselves from it because it's a lot. I'm sure as y'all know, putting on these events, it takes a lot out of you. But yeah, kind of branching off and other things. We also host a thing called Terra Special Game, which is a special needs game, and kids in Special Olympics, and they play with each other and have fun. So just other ways to do life. So yeah.
Well, I mean, there's nothing more special than to give life back to some other people and show them different things. I mean, and I think at the end of the day, that's what we come back to when we're looking at dedication. I mean, one of the passions we have is we want to help these kids learn that there's more to life than just sports. Sports is definitely a vehicle. When you see guys like Ben, and I mean, they go spend 10, 12 hours on the field filming a game. It's bigger than money, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's the key that we want to look at. So kind of share with me a little bit more about, I know you're a big 2-time state champion. Tell me kind of how that high school career kind of transition. I saw the little Foster balling over in Arlington, and I heard you got identified real early that he was going to be that man. So kind of tell us a little bit about that journey, man.
So to be honest with you, football wasn't a sport I grew up playing until 13, maybe 12. Sorry, I might have been 11 or 12. But my point being, baseball was always our family's sport, and football I fell in love with everything about it. So ever since then, I just picked the ball up and threw the ball far, and it ended up being a quarterback. So I loved everything about it. I loved the team atmosphere. Went to a school called Grace Prep from 7th grade all the way up, leading into my sophomore year. And then, but I went to Aledo for a little bit. My family moved out there, and then ended up my last 2 years at All Saints in Fort Worth. Loved playing for Coach Beck over there. I joke around. I think my mom could have won state for those teams, because at quarterback, I had a great O-line, great receivers, great defense, and special group. I think we ended up having 11 guys in my class go D1.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was like DeSoto, probably Duncanville, and then somehow All Saints found its way in the top 5 of D1 recruits. So special team. So, but I was just honored to be their quarterback and help them lead them to 2 championships.
You mentioned going to several different schools there. You started out at Grace Prep, and then you moved to Aledo, and then finishing things off at All Saints Episcopal. What was that transition like, going into 3 different programs, finishing up there with all that D1 talent around you? Everyone's looking to you, though, because you're the quarterback, you're the leader. Was it difficult to transition into that leadership role, or was it something that just kind of came natural for you?
The transferring part really was tough on me and my family, if I'm being honest, because as a leader, like, you take pride in building relationships. So every time I was leaving my buddies, it's like a part of you just kind of, it hurts, and it should hurt, especially with this transfer portal nowadays and quarterbacks leaving this and that. It was never like something where I was like, we don't like this coach, we're leaving here. It was just as cliche as it sounds, God just put it on my family's heart and ended up just working out for me. I always wanted what's best for Grace Prep, always wanted what's best for Alito. It just happened to find my way at All Saints at the very end. And I was thankful for every program leading up to that. But it was definitely tough, but I truly believe everything, like I said, happens for a reason. And so ups and downs. But then again, I still have relationships with every program, I would say. And like, that's what it's about. Like, I don't remember how many touchdowns I threw. I don't remember any of that stuff. I just remember the locker room, to be honest with you. That's what I miss the most. So.
So who was if you remember give me a play in the game and that you feel like that kind of set you apart. I mean, I know Scout.com had you at 4-star, and I don't really get in all the ratings, but you obviously put up some big numbers in your high school days to have the national media looking at you. So don't be so kind with me. Let's brag a little bit.
Like you say, like, when did I know that I was kind of next level?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Hey, I can go to the next level. What was that moment? It has to be a game or a throw or a big play.
I would say sophomore year. I knew we were playing Burleson Centennial at Grace when I was at Grace Prep. Burleson Centennial was just a new school. I think that was their first year as a program. And we won, like, I think we ended up coming back and winning on like the last play of the game. I was actually had food poisoning that leading up to that kind of Michael Jordan game.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was actually like the whole, I think Riley Dodge, something similar to him, where throwing up and wiping your mouth and throwing it. But made a couple of throws in that game to where I was like, okay, I think I got something a little bit different in some areas, I guess the kids would say. But I don't know. I was always known for my strong arm, I guess. But just like pitching in baseball, I threw hard, threw far. But I would like to say I was highly recruited because of my leadership and my ability to bring my teammates along. But
Right.
I don't know. As you can tell, I don't really remember too many plays um, where I felt like I was built different. I just try to keep my head down and compete.
What was the recruiting process kind of like for you? Because I mean, you had some big schools coming after you. Ultimately, you end up staying close to home there at TCU. So, what was that kind of like? I know it's changed a lot since then over the last decade or so. So, just kind of what was that like? Maybe who was the first school to reach out to you? Were you considering other schools? Just kind of what was that journey like as you try and make your college decision?
To be honest, TCU. TCU was the first one that really came out to my game. Rusty Burns, Coach Burns, he was our receivers coach when I was there. And this was like right before the Rose Bowl. So they were still kind of up and coming with Gary Patterson.
Mhm.
I'll never forget that. He came out, watched me play live, and sat by my parents, I believe. But just that loyalty, and I loved Fort Worth. I grew up a Longhorn fan. Don't tell nobody, but I grew up a Longhorn fan, and ended up falling in love with TCU. But I was blessed to have coaches and mentors put me in really good situations. If I'm going to be honest, all my high school coaches had great relationships, and I think that's a big part that helped me get recruited. And my quarterback coach was Kevin Murray, my like mentor, who I tried to be like. So he put me in with a lot of people, and he put me in front of Alabama, and just he put his neck on the line. I'll never forget that. So that's another reason why I love what I do, is try to be able to put my kids in front of coaches with the relationships that I have, and just to give them an opportunity, like someone did for me. So recruiting is awesome, I guess. I had personally hated it. I hated the whole process. Like, I mean, if you look at my tweets maybe back in the day, I like joked every now and then, but like, I was so ready to commit. Once I had the offers I knew I had, I didn't, I just I loved competing, to be honest with you. And I know these kids chase offers these days, and that's good, that's fine, but like that's not the why behind all this. That's not why you're competing. That's not what gets you out of bed. If it is, then you probably need to rethink the whole the whole sport. But I just never really was a fan of the attention, to be honest with you.
So what two schools did it come down to, or was it always TCU?
So it came down to Oklahoma State, Alabama, and then TCU.
Oh,
And
wow.
TCU was just always kind of in the back of my mind. going back to that loyalty. Coach Patterson always just shot me straight, didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, told me what I needed to hear type thing. And it was just honest. And it just seemed more natural, I guess. Alabama was awesome, but winning national championships. But I wanted to stay local. I'm a big family guy.
Yeah.
Then Oklahoma State, Coach Gundy's an offensive guy too, and Brandon Whedon had just finished up, and I kind of saw myself like those kind of quarterbacks. So it was tough, but I just saw an opportunity at TCU, and Sonny Cumbie being my OC and quarterback coach with Doug Meacham as well. That was a big reason too why I stayed with my commitment at TCU. But it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. A lot of sleepless nights.
Man, you had some legends there at TCU. Coach Patterson is always, he was the guy that always put together great teams, man. I mean, he have kids that you didn't even know anything about that just become ballers. Matter of fact, I do have family members that literally played at TCU, so I tease all the time because, little quick story about me. Playing at SMU, I'm a little bit more seasoned than you. Coming from a small town in East Texas, my cousin came. His name was Michael Jackson. I know that sounds funny, but he was a receiver there. Then I had another dude that came. I had several guys came from East Texas that played at TCU when I played in the 90s. My very first game I got a chance to start at outside linebacker was against TCU.
Really?
Yeah, so I always tease because, that was my first game, got an opportunity, moved from safety to outside linebacker. Started that game, 15 solo tackles, batted down 2-point conversion, quarterback sack, as well as Southwest Conference Player of the Week. That was the real SEC back then. ISO right, ISO left. So I always tease, but I always got great respect for TCU, man. They've always put great things together. There's always been competition. I was just looking at Blackwell. I was like, man, where's that guy at? But you guys have had some studs over there. So, so you go to TCU, and you had some guys there to compete with. Andy Dalton was there right at the time, and kind of tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
So Andy Dalton was just before me. I was there from 14 to 18, and Casey Paul was a quarterback right before me as well. So when I got there, Trayvon Boykin, when I committed and got there, Trayvon Boykin, which I'm sure we all know is Heisman finalist or almost was, and he ended up going from like quarterback to receiver to running back, and he didn't know if I was going to be his quarterback or vice versa. I wasn't going to be a receiver, but he took off, and that was one of the most special players I was ever to be around was Trayvon Boykin. He was unbelievable. It was cool to see a quarterback or an athlete go through adversity his first couple of years there, and then just let it rip and believe in himself. And it was cool to watch from a distance. So Trayvon, we called him Deuce. He was, got in some trouble at the very end of it all, but one of the best competitors and guys that, God willing, stay out of trouble. Who knows where he'd still be, but he's a great dude. And, but Casey Paul Hall was a quarterback right before me. I would say that's a relationship with Casey to this day. We still see each other at TCU games. Paul Hall was very talented. I always saw myself as a Casey Paul Hall type player. He was one of the more underrated TCU quarterbacks, I would say. But and then we had Josh Doxson, those kind of guys that were just unbelievable to be around and watch play. So
now for you had a little adversity not only at TCU but at Stephen F. Austin as well. You battled some injuries, I believe, and not just one or two, but several over the course of your career, especially later in your career. So talk about that a little bit, and how you worked to overcome that, and how difficult it was to have to go through that process several times.
Very tough, to be honest with you. Football's a violent sport, as we know, and I struggled with. I never had injuries growing up, really. A couple bruises here and there, but I tore my shoulder. Come to find out, I tore it back when I was at TCU. Always had to do rehab. Still have to have surgery on it today, but and I blew my ACL out, my whole knee out when I was at Stephen F. My MCL the first time, and then everything the second time. And the tough part about that was I was just feeling like myself, just like some would say, back in high school, it felt like it was a game to me again. I know you see that with Baker Mayfield right now in the league. You kind of see a guy that truly is believing in himself and falling in love with the game again. And then God just had something different for me. and just kind of pulled the rug. And then I felt like I was getting back again, and then had one of my most violent concussions, and it just didn't fall like I wanted to. But at the end of the day, now I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys and talking about AP Ranch and talking about my relationship. So there's beauty in all of it, all in the suffering. But I really found out who I was as a young man, I would say, going through those injuries. You had to embrace it. But what do they say? It ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get up. So that kind of thing. But so.
Now, did you kind of seek some opportunities after Stephen F. Austin? Did you try and, go the professional route or anything like that? Or kind of when did you decide to ultimately hang up the cleats?
I did. So once I was done at Stephen F., I had a couple people reach out to me. And, like my quarterback coach, Kevin Murray, sat and talked. And he was like, you can do it, man. And he's seen it at the highest level. And he was like, just pursue it. You don't want to have any regrets in life. So I respected that. And my family said the same thing. So I tried the XFL route, went to a Cowboys pro day. And to be honest, he did really well. And I felt like I was having fun again. But in the back of my mind, I was like, God, if this doesn't happen, I'm still going to trust you. And I just remember feeling that and feeling at peace about it and being at peace with the work I've put up into that. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what this whole thing's about. I was at peace with that preparation of my life, and I was okay to move on from it. Now, clearly, I'm still a football coach, so I don't fully move on from it, but it was easier for me to hang those cleats up once I didn't get those calls that I wanted. So, but definitely a roller coaster, to say the least, towards the end.
But no, it's definitely developed you, and through those adversities, developed you to become the man you are today. So after you hung the cleats up, what was the next step? I mean, I know, you anything like me, you didn't just jump right into coaching. What was what? You have to find your journey. You have to figure out, okay, who am I going to become now? I'm in my adult time. So,
Yeah.
kind of what was that next move after?
Man, it's funny. I was telling one of my kids this the other day. I didn't watch football for like a year and a half, I don't think. Like I went and we go out hunting, me and my family. So we went hunting and did some work out at the other ranch and just got away from it. And then I was like, I really miss this. So actually leading up to that, I take it back. I didn't watch football, but I still coached it. So I started my own little quarterback business on the side and basically trying to be what Kevin Murray was to me and throw a football here and there and mentor these kids. So that was always my passion all along. Deep down, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I did that, got into the business sales world for a little bit, but continued my quarterback coaching on the side and fell in love with that more and more. And then I helped out a little bit with All Saints during the COVID years because I just had the time to. If I wasn't golfing, I was out in the football field at that time. But so I have a passion for, to be honest with you, the same energy as I did as a player coaching now, if not more, because you're kind of more responsible for, something bigger than yourself. And it kind of makes me hone in on that part. And I absolutely love it. And then here about 3 years ago, AP Ranch, this is where I trained. They came to me and I came to them and was like, I'd love to be here. And now the rest is history. So going on year 3, finishing up year 3, and absolutely love working with these kids, man. Especially kids that want to get better. It's hard to beat.
So now you're the director of the 7v7 program there with AP Ranch. How did that kind of get formulated? We were talking about, how much 7-on-7 has grown since you were in high school. Are you kind of the one that was over it? Did you approach them maybe with the idea? How did everything get started with that?
Yeah, no, what I love about AP Ranch is we're just doing it together as a team. So Greg Scholler is our head director, and he oversees everything, but also oversees the track program. That's what we're known for. Greg Scholler's trained me, so very speed-oriented. And I was brought on to oversee all the football operations. And this was, like I said, 3 years ago. I didn't know too much about 7-on-7 as far as an off-season program. I just knew it through my school. But I was like, how do I get in front of these kids? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, getting them here. So that's where I went from training and doing skilled stuff here, which I still do and I still love. And I was like, I'm going to start some 7-on-7 teams. Started with one. I'm a big believer in crawl, walk before you run in anything you do. So I started a 13-year-old team, which now they're 15. And then each year I just kind of bump it down. And then next thing you know, now all my kids are like, Coach Foster, can we start an 18U team or 13? It's hard for me to say no sometimes. So ended up now with 6 teams this year,
Wow.
and we got two sides. We got more of our tournament side and then our developmental side. And I love both because one's more competitive and one's more just about, hey, we're not going to look at the scoreboard. And so, yeah, sometimes I feel like we're running over here. I'm running. I should be walking and crawling, but it's part of it, man.
Well, one of the things that when you're dealing with youth, you're always gonna run. And when you're doing the right things and you're doing what God called you to do, He's just gonna continue to flood you with it. So just keep pushing in that. But one of the things that, as I go back to, you said that helped you more than anything was your mentors and the relationships that the people that you was working with had. How important? Speak to a parent that is looking for programs out there. What how key is that hey, you can just go into any program, but you need a program that they have relationships to open doors like Kevin Murray did for you, the high school coaches. Because as you're stating, what I'm hearing on the other side, that you might have not got found if you'd have other guys pushing you out there in the marketplace. Is that kind of true? Kind of speak to that, the value of that.
Yeah, I mean, what I tell my parents, especially the new ones, I'm like, what do you want out of this? Like, what's the point? If is it for offers? Is it for I just want my son to develop, and I would suggest to those parents, which find a coach that's gonna believe in your son and love on your son and be there for your son. Coach him hard, don't just baby him. Don't go to a program where they tell you how awesome you are and throw you the ball 10 times because that kid needs to learn how to run a post route and make the corner open, on a scissors concept or whatever in order to be a teammate. And if it's about individual, then I would stay away from those types of programs. So that's those mentors, those coaches install that into me. You're always playing for something bigger than yourself. And I tell my parents at the beginning of the year every year, I said, we're not chasing trophies. We're going to chase to be better young men, better young coaches, and we're not going to look up. We're going to get 1% better, and that team that typically works when they're more bought in. And I tell them, we're going to teach your son how to problem solve. So what I mean by that is I feel like some coaches try to overcoach. Some coaches try to, be helicoptered or even parents sometimes. And, that's just not my style. I rip them up sometimes, but I'm a big believer in, hey, quarterback, you got the plays here. Give me a look if you want me to help you out and tell you what I see. So that is the whole reason why I started, to be honest with you, is so my quarterbacks could take ownership, run a huddle, you know what I mean? Get them out of the huddle, run the right play. So there's so many great programs out there. Golly, that's what I'm learning, especially in y'all's DR7 tournament. I left like I just played a game on Saturday again. I was beat physically, emotionally. It was cool to see, and yeah, I just love watching kids compete and compete the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not crying and whining, and which we have those kids, but that's the point, is to be like, hey, you keep that up, you won't play, and
Right.
that's just that kid needs to hear that more than anyone. So.
Well, that's what I try to tell. One thing we built DR7, been with me since we launched this brand. One of the things that we want to pride ourselves on is, hey, you got a coach here. You just can't have a super athlete and go out and to hear you say that you left just as physical like you played a game. That means you mentally had to coach. It's a lot of events that you can go to. No, not to put anybody down, but there's not a lot of great coaching going on, not a lot of strategy, different things like that. And as me and you have talked over the past year in your program, great to see you guys finally come out for DR7 event. But I'm super excited about the future, because I think your program and what you guys are building there, the leadership, the character development, and those things, and then you having the reach, being played at different colleges and your network what a lot of parents don't know is I can go to a lot of organizations with brand. Do they have a network to help my kid if he is good enough to go to that next level? Yeah. And I feel like that's something that you bring to the table based on the relationships you've already said. How important is that for that kid, that parent to know, or do you guys discuss that about, hey, we do have a network to help you get, because everything in life is about who do you know, not always about what you know.
Yeah, 100%. That's the whole point of why I'm here, is to be able to be like a middleman for these kids down the road. The whole point of AP Ranch is to get school paid for. Like that's the vision, and if that means putting a ball in your hand or putting cleats on right on the track, by golly, do it. And also telling them how important education is. So we always talk about that, and I try to stay away from as much as possible. Try to stay away from as much as possible. Like, hey, we can get your son here, or call this coach, because we don't want you here if that's all you care about.
Correct.
We want you to be here to do life together. And on the back end, we'll go into the end of it all for you guys to call a Coach P or call whoever up, these coaches that we have, and to say, hey, this is a young man that you should take a look at. And that's an honor. That's one of the favorite things I love about my job, is to be able to use my relationships, that I could say, hey, this is a guy you should take a look at. And rather than it being on Twitter or something, it comes from people. And if I tell them all the time too, is if I can't get in front of this coach, I'll find somebody that does.
Right.
And so I always pump the brakes a little bit on the whole recruitment stuff, because I tell the parents, I'm like, man, if you don't enjoy high school, much less middle school, your son's gonna look up and he's gonna miss it all. He's gonna miss being a kid. So, but all at the same time, it's cool to watch a kid be like, all right, that kid's gonna play on Saturdays. Let me call this coach real quick.
Yeah. So. You usually identify them. I think that's one of the things that as I look back on my journey, I didn't even know anything about that you can get a scholarship to go play football. I just love the game of football. I just love contact. And I think sometimes these kids don't focus on loving the game first. They focus on, hey, what the game can give them, and they don't go and put the work in. And that's something I think that, organizations like what you guys are doing is very important. And that's why we like partnering with organizations like yourself that is really doing the right thing. I mean, our job, what we feel like is at DR Sports and on the DR7 platform is to bring exposure to each athlete and organization, so parents know what the good organizations are. And you guys are definitely one of the top organizations that that we see that are building the things the right way. Not saying people are doing the right things, but I think parents need to hear from leadership, because you said that a key thing. If they're not leaders and you won't follow them, I won't put my kid in there. So, I think that's one of the things. I don't know your other people, but I think, just speaking with you several times that I have fostered, that's what you exude is in that leadership category for these kids to follow.
Thank you. I truly appreciate that. That means the world. You just got me re-juiced up, man. Going. So I appreciate that, and I love what you guys are doing, man. That's why I left y'all's tournament, the DR7. I was like, I want all my teams in this next year, because I think we only put our 14-year-old team in it. And I was like, we want to compete at a high level, be around good competition, but the tournament was just well ran as well. So please know it's respect on the back end too. So y'all are doing a fantastic job, and I can't wait. I know I want to enjoy the fall for the kids, but I can't wait for next season. So.
Trust me, we're already getting calls about next year, so we're working on that now. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, I know we've kind of, and Ben don't let me overtake you, but we've kind of talked about AP Ranch a little bit. But you guys was runner up, and that 14U bracket was the gauntlet. Kind of tell us a little bit about those kids, and tell us a little bit more about AP Ranch. So definitely let us know where people can find you guys at and look you guys up. Come and check you guys out if they're in the area.
So we're located over here in Benbrook, which is Fort Worth, so just West Fort Worth, and that's where our facility's at. And anyone's welcome to reach out to me through social media is probably best right now. But man, that 14-year-old group, Very special, and it was special because it's not like I like went and recruited these kids or anything. Like we had tryouts, but we had two teams and put them in a developmental league, and then we just kind of took the ones that we thought would put us in a good situation to go play in some big tournaments, and they ended up winning a couple of tournaments, one in College Station last year, and so that's when I was like, okay, we're gonna go play in some bigger ones, and like DR7, that was on the top of my list. That's all I heard. I didn't know any of this stuff. I was like, what's the big one? So I called some coaches I knew, and they're like, man, you got to play in this one, you got to play in that one. And once I saw that y'all were at North Crowley, which that's where a lot of our kids come from on that 14U team, I was like, oh, Coach Gates is awesome, man. Who's the head coach over there? And I'm like, say less, we're there. Because I think it's only building more of a community in the Fort Worth and the North Crowley area as well, or the whole Crowley area. So my 14-year-olds, that's where they'll go to high school, either Crowley, North Crowley, some at Eaton. But they're a special group, man. I played select baseball at a very high level for a team called the Dallas Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to model it after Tommy Hernandez, who was my mentor and coach as well. So I'm just trying to copy and paste what he did to us. And what he did was he basically told us we're not as good as we think we are.
Right.
But he'd come compete and be around the best dudes. Whereas I played on teams prior and was always the best, I would say. But like we were losing game 3 or 2. We were in the championship, whereas the Dallas Tigers they had guys that were the best in the area. So I learned how to compete is what I tell my parents in that time frame. So I tell my kids all the time, it's like, look, you could be starting one game and then not the next. And how are you going to deal with that? Or you can go play on this other team that's going to, like I said before, go throw you the ball 20 times, but you're not getting better and you're sure as heck not learning how to be a better teammate. And you want to go play on college football? Come on, man. You got to be able to be around there's a bunch of U's out there, 4-star, 5-stars. So my point being saying all that is that group rose to the occasion on that areas more times than not. And they, like I said, they learned how to problem solve. We were burnt towards the end. HPA, man, we lost to them the championship. That is the first time I've seen a team where I was like, we got some work to do. We always have work to do, but that was a team where I was like, this team's good. They're smart and very talented and confident. God, that team is confident. So HPA, if you're listening, man, y'all got a great program. Same with Mike Evans. Same 940 Elite. I mean, all these teams I didn't even know existed before. So, but we're just honored to be in somewhat in the same conversations as those teams. And but yeah, this 7-on-7 world is competitive, man. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Something I'm curious about, and we won't keep you too much longer, but I'm kind of curious about this. We talked before we came on just about 7-on-7, how much it's grown. And, it was just a school thing when you were coming up in high school. But I'm interested now because you mentioned Coach Gates and North Crowley and all the relationships that you're building with the schools around the Fort Worth area. Is that something that you emphasize? Are you reaching out to these coaches? Are you working hand in hand with them? Because I think that's kind of the perception about 7-on-7 is, there's not a real benefit to it, but are you working with the high school coaches and, seeing the progression in the fall and on Friday nights and kind of working alongside them to help develop their players in the off season?
Yeah. So when I first took this job, I built a relationship with Coach Gates. We met with him, and I was like, I'll come to you. I'll help out. So I would run. I did it at Crowley, North Crowley, done it at Western Hills, and I would go to these schools. And I built the relationship. I said, let me do a workout on Wednesday evenings or Thursday evenings, whatever it was, and earn your trust. That I'm APR and myself included. We're just here to help and to be extensions to you guys. So me and Coach Greg really focus on like your school comes first. Like it's not up for discussion. And if you can miss a practice here or there, but if you do it consistently, that's when I'll call the parent or the kid and be like, hey, what's going on? But school's always priority. And I think that's important. I think that's where I built a relationship with these coaches because, again, I didn't build 7-on-7 here at the ranch to be the best 7-on-7 team in the nation or Texas. I built it for these kids to get extra work. Like that was it. You don't know what cover 4 is? Awesome. Come on. You don't know what a cross and bender route is? Awesome. Come on. And technique and all that stuff. So I just every time I talk to these coaches, I was like, if they're doing something on the weekend, the football's on in their hands, then that means they're probably not doing something they shouldn't. You know what I mean? Whether it's being
Right.
lazy, the older they get, they drive. That's a whole different ball game. But if they're working, they're working. I know staying healthy is the biggest thing. So that's where I shut down my high school kids pretty early because I don't want to deal with that at all. I'd hate for a kid to get hurt on our watch and not be ready for the fall. But so, yeah, building a relationship with these coaches. Anybody, my 2 cents worth is dive into those coaches, middle school coaches as well, and just tell them you're there to help. That's it. Be an extension to them. So.
So last question, kind of wrapping this thing up. So you kind of, you say you come out of the select baseball world.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of starting to see how it's pushing, 707 is starting to be that spring sport, AAU kind of model sport. Are you kind of seeing it how, you mentioned that how baseball is, because, there's select baseball, basketball, volleyball, AAU, whatever you want to call it, still the same select.
Yeah.
I kind of see in football world, flag is kind of rec football, and 707 is where your elite athletes are. You kind of see it that way?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's definitely levels to it, and that's why we focus on having 2 teams. So, like I have, like I said, developmental team because those kids need rep too. Like I've seen kids get better through just a Friday night league out in Keller. Truly gain confidence, I would say, is the biggest thing. But yeah, like the 7-on-7 world, especially in tournaments like y'all's TR7, like it's competitive, and like you can't tell me that a kid being in man coverage or throwing a ball and cover 2 hole shots not making him better. Like I don't understand it. There's a reason why at TCU we did 7-on-7 every single day, And I think, I mean, if you look at my playbook, we're just running what we ran at TCU. We run mesh, we run shallow, we run cross, we run vert switch. I try to stay away from the shovel stuff. That's the stuff that makes me mad as a competitive coach. Still learning how to defeat it, but like I said, I'm a quarterback and I train quarterbacks, so I focus on feet, eyes, like mimicking it with the reads. We're not going to do just whole, lazy feet thing. We're not. We're going to do things the right way, and it's
Drives me crazy.
it's because I created a bad habit. I remember playing select or not tournament in high school for 7-on-7 for my school, and I created just terrible feet. And Kevin Murray was like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" And I did it through 7-on-7, but so I really put an emphasis on that part. But man, I love it. I mean, I think we'll probably end up going to Houston. I know y'all got a couple of tournaments in Houston this year, probably coming up. Like my parents were chomping at the bit; they want more. So I was like, okay, we'll be signed up more too. So.
But tell them to get their plane ticket to Florida because that's where the crown gonna be in 25.
Okay.
But let me ask you this: with the transfer portal, I know you didn't go through the transfer portal. Matter of fact, I did get recruited for Stephen F. So we kind of got a little history going on here.
There you go.
I'm out of Kilgore, but now these kids with the transfer portal, they literally got to come out of high school. What I'm hearing is because they only recruiting 6 to 8 high school kids at the Power 4 and Power 5 level. They got to be ready by their sophomore year. They got to go D1, AA, or D2.
Yeah.
Is that kind of way you see it? And that's why this development is so important for these athletes?
Oh, there's no doubt. There is no doubt. That is the hardest thing to do right now is to educate, I guess is the word, a parent that has a high school kid, 17, 18 years old, on what's going on, especially at the quarterback position. It is very, very hard to get offers. And because like you said, like they want a 22-year-old, like some of the coaches I talked to, like they don't want to, they need to win now. Like their families, like it depends on it, like if they win football games. So it's even more of an emphasis, like what you're saying, Murph, like high school coaches and private high school coaches, like you have to get the kid ready. You have to get them ready, or at least ready to be coachable very quickly, because their patience it's even smaller than it was like when we played, for sure. And I think there's a lot of positive with that. I think there's some things I don't like about the portal, but just like anything, it's a learning revolving door. But yeah, that's one of the hardest things is to look at some of my older athletes and tell, man, shoot, when I played 10 years ago, when I was getting recruited, I you'd be a guy sitting next to me in the locker room. There's no doubt. But that, again, I came from a guy like Gary Patterson who would want to develop you. And nowadays it's like we need you. It's like free agency, as you know. Like, play
It
now
is.
or get out.
Right.
So, yeah, no, these kids, man, are doing things different. Like my 14-year-olds, there's things that they're doing. I'm like,
Right.
how are you doing that? I wouldn't tell them that because then they'll get too cocky. But I'm like, how are you making that throw? How are you making that catch? And it just shows you there's so much talent out there, man. So if you got to be working constantly.
Yeah. I was telling someone the other day. I was like, as a matter of fact, that was today. I was talking with a guy out of California, out of LA, and I was like, I said, when you're looking at this spring football stuff, flag football is blowing up, right? But what you find is a lot of the top elite kids, even at 7 and 8, are not staying in the flag game anymore. Parents are moving them to the 7-on-7. I said, I can tell you that because we just started 8U, 2 years ago, Ben? It was our second year. We had national championship, 8U, full brackets, everything. In our first year, team out of Houston had a group of 7-year-olds. And I'm literally watching these 7-year-olds throw fade routes and throw drag routes and kids catching with one. I mean, these are just special. You find the special kids come out, kind of like you were as a young athlete. So it's just a different game now, man. And these kids got to develop as fast as they possibly can to be able to go and get the bag that they're going to need to get to be able to go to a D1 or a Power 5, Power 4 school. So
Yeah.
you kind of see that world. I don't know how to educate these parents on that, hey, it's a lot more work than when we came through. We can play in our, I'm one of those old dads. I'll just go out there and play, but it ain't like that anymore.
No, these kids are so technical. There's so many coaches. And I think that's another hard thing, though, too, is not having too many coaches or too many voices in your ear, too. So that's another double-edged sword on that. Like, go get work, but make sure it's good work. But yeah, these kids, that's why I love the select world, like you said. These kids are, at least like my 14-year-olds, for example, they're the king of their playground at their middle school, right? But like, then they come over here and there's other kings. So it's making them better. And it's also from a quarterback perspective. Middle school, I know for sure. Elementary, for definitely, I had a baby throws because kids couldn't catch at my school. So like, besides like one or two, but then I was surrounded by better talent. Like my baseball world, I got better, and that's my vision all along, is to make these guys throw and catch different speeds, and because that's what college is about. And I've seen it work. I got kids that from a quarterback perspective, that they would never throw to over at some of these schools. And with the track speed that we've got over here, they're developing. Their arms are getting stronger. They're getting the ball out quicker. So, but yeah, and going back to the whole, like, there's so many gurus out there, and I say gurus, like there's so many coaches that want to promise the kid the world, and it's like, man, there are so many great ones, but it's like at the end of the day too, just put the work in, and keep your head down. And if you're good enough, the coaches will find you, and you have enough with social media and stuff to find a way to get your name out there. If not, that's where I hope places like us can sell our kids a little bit to some of these college coaches. But I don't know. Again, I just think kids focus on offers and stuff too soon, and parents, and they forget that how important high school is. I miss high school more than I do college, probably, just because it's fun. It's not a business, and nowadays it is a business. So if you're getting NIL money, it's a business. They'll cut your butt real quick nowadays. So I don't know. Different times.
Hey, on the note of youth football and just how far we've come, and how crazy talented kids are at such a young age these days, I have to circle back around to AP Ranch. You mentioned 6 teams this year. Will we see you guys roll out some younger teams? What's kind of the future of AP Ranch 7-on-7 looking like?
Yeah, definitely some younger teams. We'll have some tryouts, or I say tryouts for what team they'll be on coming up. So if you're in the Fort Worth area, come on out. I don't know. Definitely we'll have a 12-year-old team, 12U, 13, 14, 15, and 18. Uh, so we'll have all that leading up, but I would love to have some type of 10U team. I know Greg Shores, our head director, he's a huge believer. If you get a kid young, if you get them
Yep.
this sounds bad, but if you give them enough, you can coach them. And they start listening how you coach, and they take on your personality. And just like at TCU, we took on Gary Patterson's mentality. That's just kind of how. That's the cool part as a coach is to watch that evolve. But sometimes, if you get a high school kid or a middle school kid, they have all the answers in their in their minds, and they're not maybe as willing to learn and grow. So long story short, yes, I think we're going to be having a 10U team and maybe 11, 12-year-old, maybe mix that up. But I love working with young kids, man, because like we just said, they're willing to learn. They want they don't know any better. They're just kids. So
I love it. I had to throw that in there. I was curious about the future of the program, but we appreciate your time and have enjoyed learning about your journey and the things that drive you. And we're excited to see AP Ranch at more DR7 tournaments, and look forward to helping you any way we can and to continue promoting the youth athletes, because that's what it's all about at DR7, the dedicated podcast and the platform. So Mumphrey, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, but again, I've enjoyed your time and getting to hear your story.
no, I
Hey,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
guys. No, thank y'all, man. Gets me pumped up already for the off season. I've been so focused on training, but you best believe there'll be multiple APR teams. And this time we're gonna come home with the crowd. I'm gonna figure out how to stop that
Absolutely.
shovel pass.
Yeah, some of them do mix that 707 show in there. Hey, one last thing, if you got some dudes over there, man, check out the platform dr.com. We'll get some of our scouts. I mean, I know Mark Henry is usually over there at North Crowley. So check that out. Part of my tools, we'll definitely get our scouts out there on them and help promote them. So we'll talk more about that. So thanks.
Well, that's all we've got for the dedicated podcast. On the latest episode, we spoke with Foster Sawyer, the director, the coach of AP Ranch 7v7. For Jonathan Mumphrey, I'm Ben Spicer. Thanks for joining us here on the dedicated podcast. We'll see you guys next time.